Hey friends, my name's Georgie. Hello and welcome to the first episode of my new mini-series of the Just Breathe podcast, There Will Be Blood. A series of unapologetic conversations aiming to crush as many taboos as possible around the subject of women's health. And I personally believe that storytelling, connecting and speaking out are the best ways to do that. Today, I'll be chatting to a good friend of mine, Katie, all about how to be sustainable throughout your menstrual cycle and especially whilst on your period. We also exchanged a few stories about how we felt whilst we were growing up in regards to our periods and how we wished we had someone speaking out about the power of our periods when we were younger. Little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Just Breathe podcast. It really helps to keep on building that strong breathing community. Let's keep connecting people. Let's keep empowering people with the power of the breath. All right, let's dive right in to today's powerful conversation. I really hope you enjoy it. This is episode 1 of There Will Be Blood with Katie Oughtbridge. Hey Katie, what's up?
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming and chatting to me. It's a big month. It's International Women's Day this month. Of course, every day is an empowering day for anyone who identifies as a she or a her, of course. So anyway, it's great to have you on, and I just really want to pick your brains about menstrual products for anyone who menstruates that are sustainable, how to really look after yourself in terms of not even just your period, but in terms of just to look after yourself in general, but in a really sustainable way. The world's definitely going that way, right? And it has never been more important to really look into how you can sort of do your bit. But it's not just your bit for the planet, is it? It's your bit for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing is that at the moment, a lot of emphasis is being put on to sustainability and, you know, having a healthy body inside and out and things like that. Mm-hmm. And data's been coming out. Most of the data currently that comes out around sustainability and plastics is usually about a year behind the year that you're in. So currently the data is about 2019. So for example, menstrual products are usually currently the 5th most common to be found on any European beaches at the moment. They come above anything like coffee cups, straws, plastic cutlery. They come above all of those things as the 5th most popular common to be found there. And I think that's something that's so completely missed by people, is realizing that literally things like tampon applicators is just so rife across everywhere, and they're so single use to the point it's not even like a coffee cup where you have it for 30 minutes. It's something that you use for maybe 30 seconds. And I think that's exactly, that's something that, when we think about, like, it's not even like a small piece of plastic, it's multiple pieces of plastic sometimes, and a wrapper, and then the container, and there's so much involved with these things.
The box it comes in.
Exactly. And it can be the same again with a pad, which each individual is wrapped, which are also, the actual pad is plastic or poly fibers that are
that paper thing that you have to rip off of it as well. Where does that go?
So all of these things that we have and that we use, and that I would be surprised if anyone has, especially right now, would say, no, I never ever did, I always knew that reusable or washable was the option to use. Because I've never met anyone that hasn't. Myself, of course, that was what I was, brought up, and I was shown that's what you can use. These are your choices.
Me too.
Isn't it great to have a choice? It was almost seen as it's a great privilege. But then when you think about the extent of this, it's got to be thought out again. You know, they say in a lot of parts of our lives right now, we want to go back to how things were. We've moved past the point of it being convenient, and we need to go back to it being simple, back to the basics again.
Oh, absolutely. My goodness. And interestingly, what you just said about the tampon applicators and how heavily wrapped each pad is, it's interesting, isn't it? Because thinking about it, the tampon applicator, so that you don't have to touch your own body, that's really interesting. It's almost advertising and implementing the idea, especially to young girls that perhaps are having their first periods, that a period is something to be ashamed of, that part of your body is not to be touched, that you should not explore that part of your body, that period blood is dirty, when actually it's a sign of health, of course. And so that's really interesting, and you've definitely got me thinking on that.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think there was a quote which I read was like, do you remember when you were repulsed by your own period blood? And I feel like there's not been anyone who might not have experienced that. And many people probably still do and will do for the rest of their lives, that they see it as something repulsive, something that's dirty. And in reality, it shouldn't be viewed as that, like you say. It needs to be something that is rebranded, almost is the word, because periods have been branded. Periods have been branded, and they're made to look like they should be a certain way, that you should feel a certain way whilst you're having yours, or you should be able to do all these different things whilst you're having yours, which is fine, but it shouldn't be branded or advertised in a certain manner. It should be unique and personal to each person having their period. And and as long as you're happy and healthy and hopefully sustainable with it, then that's should surely be the message we're sending, rather than this is the package of the person you need to be during your period.
Yeah, it's almost being advertised as an illness, right? Whereas, thank goodness, with books like Maisie Hill's Period Power, which is such a brilliant read, she really explains how a period is a huge vital sign that you have a healthy menstrual cycle, that you are a healthy woman. And that period blood is actually a really rich source that we should be really proud of. And that, we shouldn't allow the media or, anyone sending out these messages, even our own parents, at no fault of their own, to make us feel shame about something that is a natural thing of our own bodies,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's something that I think it is happening. That's the thing. The bonus is the conversations are happening. The fact that we're having this conversation right now, it shows these conversations are happening and the change is coming. And I think it's one of those things that's kind of hit the ground running. So it will happen, and it's happening fast.
It is.
And I think that's really great. I think that's, it's a huge transition, even just to thinking, 10, 15 years ago, when I was in that stage of myself and my friends going through those early stages. And I think that's crazy to think the difference in the mindset and the knowledge now.
I'd have never been having this conversation. I'd have been so embarrassed or sort of giggly, or even though I was a lot younger, but that I really, really did think that, my period was just something that happened, and it was just to be hidden away. And my mum sort of quietly told me what to do, and bless her, no fault of my mum, she was doing what she'd been taught to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Etc. But you're right that actually, if we rewind a little bit further in history, women actually used to come together in large groups to be together whilst they were bleeding, and have these women's circles. And it was this communal thing where women supported each other through their cycles, etc., etc. Whereas now it's become such just keep it to yourself, just pop that away.
And it was it's every person who had a period must have had that moment of the worst nightmare being that if you leaked at school,
that was you had to ask for a tampon at school.
Yeah, if you had to ask somebody, and it was so secretive, and it was so, and I don't think that people necessarily have to be, if they don't want to be, they don't have to be like, hey, over there, can I borrow a Yeah. I mean, if you want to be, absolutely. But it shouldn't be something that we're sneaking up our sleeves and carrying a secret And I just think, again, that enforces the shame around the topic. And I think, to hope that down the line, that the conversation is had enough and it's taught in schools enough, and not just on a simple biology level, but just as a humanity level. If it were to be taught in schools differently, I think that would be something then as well, that it wouldn't be seen as something that was gross by the boys and embarrassing by the girls. It should be seen as something that's like, okay, cool, that's just another part of a step of someone's life, or potentially not a step of someone's life. And I just, that would be really special if it was something. And I do think that this current generation coming in are the ones to make these changes. We're seeing them make these massive changes. I feel very envious that I'm 10 years older than being in that bracket, and I'd love to be in that group that are changing the world. But at least we're right there with them. It's special.
You definitely are in that group that is changing. I don't think you need to worry about that. But let's get on to, so in terms of sustainable period products, you definitely have more knowledge than me. I have started my journey with my Diva cup, which I love, which is amazing. But I know you have a bit more knowledge on some of the choices and the options. So
there is loads of options. The standard kind of 4 options, which are kind of very highly publicized and quite easy to access by most people, is the cup. Yes, that's the first one. There's also like just reusable pads. So they would be washable pads. You can buy them and they are, from real companies. They get handmade a lot. Then there's also period pants as well, which are literally pants which look like normal pants. You can get boxer short style, you can get thong style, and you don't need to add anything. You don't need to add a pad. And then also there's also now the options for doing a reusable applicator as well for a tampon. So you'd be able to use your same unpacketed tampons, which you can use almost any brand. It doesn't have to be from one specific place, and you add them to this reusable tampon applicator and use that, and then you just rinse it and reuse it. So again, it's taking away that plastic side. So yes, there are so many options, and I think the knowledge behind each one isn't there. So I feel like having this discussion to talk about the options and hearing, I think most people would have heard of the cup, but probably sounds quite scary. And like you said, like getting to know your body, I think using the cup is something that you kind of end up doing that without realizing.
100%.
It's important. Like, did you find that with your experience?
Oh my goodness, yes. I think it's so important. That before, right, I won't go into too much. Here I am again apologizing. I won't go into too much detail, but I won't. But with sort of a tampon, I would very gently, very delicately, make sure I wasn't actually touching anything much, because I really saw it as something kind of dirty. Whereas now I'm really exploring what feels good and comfortable for me. And it is just another deeper level of being more intimate with myself and understanding my own body a little bit better. Because also, not being funny, but if at least a couple of days of the month you are being intimate with yourself in that way, just in terms of using a cup in some way, then you have an awareness of when something is not right.
Exactly.
If I was using a tampon applicator, I would have no idea. Whereas now I would understand if I went to put that in and then felt something unusual, I'd know straight away. Whereas it really saddens me that someone who is afraid to touch their own body might miss that.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's something to find that level of contact with your own body. And and I think sometimes people worry that they think it means really like having to figure out everything in one go, and it's not. You can combine these products too. And I think a lot of people use the cup, but they also might use like period pants or a reusable panty liner or something, just either continuously or whilst they're still figuring it out, just in case you haven't got it quite right. And and like in terms of sustainability, obviously that reduces a huge amount of waste immediately, because you're creating actually no waste from that once you've bought it. And they cost between about £9 and maybe £20-25, depending on the brand or the product you go for, but they last up to 10 years. And what kind of financial goodness that's got to be as well.
yeah, like we were talking about right before we sort of started recording this, is that if you add up the amount you could spend on tampons every year, whatever you buy, and even if you buy organic tampons, because of course there are some toxins in tampons which are really not great to be putting in your body, it's marginally different to buying the Diva cup, even if you look on the shelf and go, oh, £20, which I think I spent about £20 on mine. I haven't spent any money since, as it's so simple and it stays in for so much longer. It's actually much cleaner.
I think the reason I ended up making the switch and like trying out different products was because I went traveling and I was backpacking for 6 months. And I knew for a fact that I wasn't going to be wanting to have to carry around tampons and pads and fill up my already single backpack for the next 6 months. And so I thought, what's going to be, a really easy, light and compact option. So that was when I first started looking for it, because you don't need to be changing all the time. You could go hiking for a full day. And, depending on your cycle and your flow and your body, it might be that you only need to empty that once in that daytime. And some people may not need to empty it at all. You can keep it in for 8 hours and it holds a lot more than a tampon or a pad might. And you also still feel clean. That's the thing, because it's worn internally rather than externally.
You really do. I completely agree. And I think it's such a great investment. And like you said, with earlier generations now, this is really starting to become, the new normal. How many times have we heard that recently? But the new normal in such a positive way, because if young girls could be using these products as their first period products, then there is no sort of like, oh, but that looks really scary compared to a simple tampon, which actually is not so simple when you really take out all the parts.
Exactly. I mean, every person who tried a tampon that first time, that's mental. The first time you're doing it and you're sort of hoiking your leg on the back of the toilet seat to try and figure out what you're doing, and you think, if you can learn that, you can learn this. The tough part is relearning and resetting that mindset that we've instilled in ourselves, that it's something like, that's not accessible. And I was just thinking as well about, how we were sort of saying about like being familiar with your body and knowing what's wrong or right. And actually, something I've been aware of now through having the cup is that because you have to physically empty it into the toilet, you're actually aware of what's healthy and what's not for you, your amounts, your flow, where you are in your cycle, because how much there is or how little there is,
the
on your
color. There's so much.
And that's so big, because I think before, if it's simply being absorbed by a tampon or sitting in a pad, sitting in a tampon, it's sitting there and it's being changed its consistency, so you don't know that. In a pad, the minute it starts oxidizing, then it's changing the odor, it's changing the color. So again, that isn't something that's an accurate check of what it looks like. So, but with the cup, it's sitting inside. It actually may as well still be inside you. It doesn't matter. So when you see it, that's exactly what it looked like inside you. So get another good health check.
It's a great indication of your health. And it actually, I think using the cup was the first thing that prompted me to become more interested. And how crazy is it I'm saying this now, but it's true, to become more interested in my own health, in that way, my own reproductive health, in terms of, okay, what should it look like? How should my flow be? And especially now I've come off the contraceptive pill, I'm using natural cycles, which really gets into tracking your period and your menstrual cycle. And actually it's brilliant. I'd really recommend natural cycles to anyone looking for a natural form of contraceptive. It really gives you sort of daily reminders, even of like, now's time to do a breast check, here's how you do it, this is the best time in your cycle to do it. And all things like we've been saying about you put every day when you're on your period, is your flow light, medium or heavy? And it will quickly flag up with your temperature if something is abnormal. Again, you're really looking out for yourself there. And so I just think it's such a good investment.
Definitely, I think so too. But then there's obviously like, so the other options that I talked about too. So the reusable tampon applicator, that is very self-explanatory. It's as long as you're buying unapplicator tampons.
Yeah.
They all fit, they all work. The company Dame, Dame, are the brand who sort of have like patented this. And, you know, and they've sort of put this forward as a suggestion. They do have other sanitary products as well, but it's something that, you know, is very easy. So even just for people who feel like, you know, they're nervous to switch to something completely different, that is fantastic, because I mean, it is actually cheaper to buy unapplicator tampons. That saves you money. And then obviously there's not the side of throwing away a plastic thing 2 to 3, maybe 4 to 5 times a day. And saving the plastic, which is saving the planet, you know, which is huge.
Can you just wash these with soap and water?
Yeah, so they are actually made from, I forget the name, the medical, the name for it, but it's medical grade, the plastic they use, which is different from the medical grade silicone, which is used from a cup. So cup silicone is a medical grade silicone, and it's a type that, you know, the cleaning methods for those are generally, you can either boil them, you can buy like a little like cup, or you can just use any old bowl and put like sterilizing tablets, like the same kind you'd use on like a baby's bottle, that kind of thing. But then so for the applicator, tampon applicator, that one's a different kind. So it's made as a kind that has like antimicrobials built into the material, so automatically sort of repels bacteria. And so all they basically say to do is just to clean it off, rinse it under the tap, make sure you clean it, and then it has like a seal which you can then close it inside. So it's almost like in its own little like test tube,
like
almost
tube tub thing.
And that's it, as long as it's dry as well. Obviously things like same with anything that we all know, you know, you don't put your Tupperware away sealed and wet, because you know it can grow bacteria. So as long as it's dry and it's been rinsed, that's more than enough. And then if people feel they would like to use them again, like sterilizing tablets in water is again perfectly suitable. And again, just going careful with soap, because soap can change pH, can change the chemical balance. Especially fragranced soaps, they can also cause irritation, which we don't even realize, which again, fun fact, try not to be washing any intimate areas with any of your standard hand or body soaps or anything like that, because it really doesn't help. It should be external only for those areas. You are wanting to clean internally, you don't really need to. In reality, we should avoid water only.
This was in Maisie's book as well, which I found really interesting. That was actually, it cleans itself down there. It has its own little system that is working away, and you're only going to disrupt that system if you put some foreign soap in there.
Exactly. Yeah, everything has its very delicate pH balance, and usually if there's something wrong, it's often to do with a thrown off pH balance. You know, people find that they might be getting thrush or UTIs or things like this, which again, all these can be for a million other reasons, but sometimes this can be due to that sort of thing. It can be due to you putting, you know, in reality, do you need your downstairs to smell like lavender? Really? No, because it doesn't work like that. You know, your skin has a protective barrier, but that is actually internal skin. You know, it's not the same type of skin. It is an internal area that needs to be left to do its own thing. It flushes itself out. You have all your systems of, like you say, self-cleaning. And again, discharge is a word that is so shied away from. Everybody's scared of the word. It sounds like a word that you wouldn't want to use in front of many people, but it's part of the process, and it means a healthy cycle. It changes its consistency, its color, its texture, and that can be a massive sign of your health too. You know, if there's certain things, and it's very easy to just Google and learn what those cycles are. People use it to track their fertility. So again, if you know your body and you know your different kinds of discharge, you know your level of fertility or your level of health, or, you know, even down to like dehydration. You know, there's a million ways of tracking these things.
Massively. Oh, massively helpful stuff. But while I have you, I want to ask you as well about other sustainable products, sort of away from menstrual products, just in terms of, I know you're great in terms of know-how on makeup remover and you know, face wash and different things. Those small white cotton pads, they must be a nightmare for the system. They get found on beaches as well.
I'm sure they probably do. It's something that's again it's something that's single use, so cotton rounds. Even again across the board, if you're going to use disposable and single use items, which we do have to acknowledge that for some people and for certain things, people do have to use disposable, and we can't ignore the fact that it's not something that's possible for everybody. But if you do need to use disposable items, always choosing to use organic cotton is something that's really great, because it means it's not been bleached, and there is other toxins, which again, it's worth too many things to try and explain, that are used to
crazy
make them look a certain way. Or even if people say, it hasn't got all those things, the actual crops, if it's not organic cotton, the crops that are grown, the cotton crops, are coated with pesticides, and if you think that's literally just being pulled off the crop, all that cotton, and created into these products, and you're either, if you're using a tampon, you're popping those inside, or if you're using them on your face, you are cleaning off your face. And yes, it's not in the final term that they're adding these chemicals, but they're there. These products have been grown with them. So using organic cotton rounds would be sort of like the least but best option. And then, if you want to, then a lot of people making their own now, they're using old t-shirts and towels and creating their own designs. And these do work really well. And it's finding what works for you. A lot of companies now have tried to sort of like jump on this wagon of sustainability, and they're making their own. People are using hemp and bamboo and organic cotton, and creating different designs, ones which are, exfoliating or not, or things like that. And I think that using those different examples of face cleaning is huge. I mean, I remember back when I would buy face wipes, and that was the original thing I would have. And I got through, like a packet a month, maybe. If I was doing shows, I'd be getting through maybe a packet a week if I was taking off, full makeup and eyelashes and everything. And now I think about that and I'm like, how did I throw that all away? Because they're full of plastic as well,
You're just throwing it in the bin, and this is the thing, isn't it, is that we throw it in the bin and then we can't see it anymore. And so you have this strange thing where it's almost out of sight, out of mind. And so you're like, well, that doesn't exist anymore. And it does. And it goes somewhere, and it's, usually somewhere that it is not so lovely to think about, that you would definitely not rather be a part of, like contaminating the most beautiful beaches in the world. It's just like, why, when there's so many other options now?
Well, there's a phrase which I think came from one of the Extinction Rebellion teenagers, and they said there's no such place as a way, and we need to realize that nothing goes away. There's not throwing it in the bin, it's not gone. Throwing it down the toilet, it's not gone. There's no away. Away is just somewhere else that's not in your eyes. Yes, exactly. And I think actually talking about throwing things away, that is something to be aware of down the toilet too. In the UK, like we spend like 100 billion every year on, and this is literally like our water taxes, having our drains unblocked because people put down the toilet sanitary products, face wipes. And in reality, nothing should go down there but the 3 Ps. It's literally, it should be like pee, poo, and paper. That's it. And yet it's mind blowing at how many people see it as okay to put their tampons, their sanitary towels, whatever it is they're using, down the toilet. Nappies, even people think that's okay. And it happens constantly. But face wipes is huge because again, that and sanitary products too, like the texture of them, if you ever think about like how you break them, they never just separate, they break and they almost like tear in a perfectly straight line because it shows you that it's such tight fibers, and they're not going to disintegrate. They just start clogging together and creating these massive fatbergs underneath the sewers and making blockages, and eventually they do find their way out into the ocean. They find their way into the water systems. And so using them, getting them out of landfill, getting them out to the waterways is a huge thing. And if one person were to change that, like now I know that I won't use those products now. So I know that that's already, the maths is beyond my brain, but think about those thousands and thousands of tampons.
Yeah, well,
just me.
If you use say you use a face wipe morning and night, that's almost 700 face wipes.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
If people say, there's a phrase of, what's that comment where people say like, oh, it's only one plastic straw, said 7 billion people. And you think, oh yeah, but I only use one a week. And like people try and like comprehend everything they have. But with this one, I can actively see that massive change that myself, that you now use in the cup, that we as individuals, that's massive. If I were to put 700 pads on the floor in front of me, I'd go, oh, that's quite scary, to think that that would be my use for, 4 years, or I could just put that one cup on the floor and go, that's my use for 4. Like, it's mad.
It is crazy. And, I myself have switched as well to the bamboo, mine are bamboo and hemp, I think.
Nice.
I got them where I am. There's some amazing eco shops, and this is a great thing as well, is that often maybe not in your town specifically, or village, but definitely in like a city or a bigger place that most people can get to fairly easily, there's gonna be some cute independent shop, or online, especially during these times, online, and you can support an independent business. And I specifically went to, because I could have got them from Holland and Barrett, I know they sell them there for the same price, but I went to a independent shop, and they have amazing like refill stations for shampoo, and you just and it's this shampoo that's free of any of the crap, and you just take she said, bring any bottle, doesn't matter what brand, whatever, bring a glass bottle, fill it up, we go by weight, and then that's your shampoo and conditioner. And I was like, fantastic. And again, you're saving so much more. And I love these cotton round things, these reusable ones. You pop them in your mesh bag, you wash them once a week, and it's just so much easier. And do you know what? It feels better on my face, so much better.
Do you remember having like the irritation underneath your eyes from face wipes and things like that?
I thought it was normal, like that burning, that drying.
Absolutely.
Thought it was
I remember that. Neutrogena wipes, I remember having that on my skin, and the burn.
Yeah.
And, and all of a sudden, not using face wipes, using something like a micellar water, or even literally just water. If you have something, certain types of these cotton rounds or microfiber towels, which again it's a flip sign with those because of the fibers they release when they're washed. So it's deciding, balancing things out. But some of them, you just need water. You don't even need anything else. And so it's doing the best you can with what is accessible to you in that moment, essentially.
Yeah, we forget how great water is as well. Yeah. That actually water, you can wash yourself with just water. Yes. That's okay. A lot of us, of course, and myself included, like to use something so much more mindful about what I use, and it's so great. Again, it's that intimacy with yourself, autonomy over your own health and wellness. And when I even say now autonomy over my own health, I am working and processing on transforming that phrase to me, because for me, I still think sometimes of illness when I say autonomy over my own health, preventing illness. Yeah. Which is a big question, is why is our focus, and this almost rounds ourselves back to talking about periods, is why is our focus always about health being sort of waiting for something to go wrong before you do anything, etc. Or periods, waiting for something to go catastrophically wrong that you're personally responsible for before you make a change. But actually it's like, what about maintaining and optimizing your own health and wellness? That is autonomy over your own health. And now when I go in one of those shops, I want to know what's in my soap bar, where it's been made, who it's been made by, where did those ingredients come from. That's interesting. I just think it's great. It's a whole new way of looking at things.
It is, and it can be overwhelming. I think definitely through my few years now of trying my best to switch different parts of my life, change products I use, stop using products and items in my life. I think it can definitely become something that it's a lifestyle, and that's the huge part. It's like when, if you want to change your lifestyle and you want to do more exercise, you can't just go from doing nothing to going, I'm going to run 5 miles every single day for the rest of my life. No. It's small changes, making them work for you. Don't try and throw out everything and start afresh, because again, you have to ease it in. You have to make it work for your world. You have to get used to going, oh, I have to make sure I put those in the wash every time because I've used them on my face and cleaned them. You know, there will be those first few times when you've forgotten to put them in the wash and you're like, what, I got to wash
Yeah.
my hands, I got to just use a flannel today, you know, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. But again, that starts to become part of your lifestyle, part of your routine. You know for a fact that actually I'm using about 7 a week, so I'm going to get a couple more of these rounds just so that I can get through to the end of the week without needing to wash them. Or, you know, finding what works, finding a system that is suitable for each individual person. So I think we all have to be aware of that. And it's the same with all those different products that we talked about. Every person is different, and not everybody will be able to use a reusable product for their menstrual cycle, you know. And so therefore just try to choose the cardboard applicators, try to choose organic, try to choose fragrance free, huge one.
Massive.
Those sorts of things.
Of course, absolutely, of course. And I think it's important as well to reiterate not to confuse face value with the amount that you will save by investing in something that is reusable. Because again, those reusable cotton rounds cost me £8. But for the next couple years, I will not need to buy any more face cleaners for my micellar water because I just wash them, unless, you know, I accidentally spill red wine on them or something bad happens, but that's my fault, you know, whatever. I'm going to save money. If you spend even, what is it, like £1.50 a week on, or even every 2 weeks on these cotton rounds, you saving a lot of money. Like, I am not a mathematician, but you are saving a lot of money.
Which again, so that comes into the perfect thing of, you know, spreading out it, because again, it is an investment and it is worth it, especially in the long run.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it is going to cost you more in the short term. So therefore spreading it out, going like, hey, like this month I'm going to switch to cotton rounds. Next month, maybe with next month's paycheck, I'm going to look into investing into a cup or handful of, you know, reusable panty liners or things like that. And just each month, just maybe working to change one thing, one area, one aspect of your life, you know. I think that definitely, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. And I definitely fell victim to having one of those days. It's usually a sort of Saturday or Sunday where you wake up and go, I'm going to go vegan. I'm going to change everything I have. I'm going to be a minimalist. So I'm going to sell everything I have down to 33 items or whatever it is, you know, and be like, no, I'm going to do it all by tomorrow. And it never, ever happens.
Monday, I'm a completely different human being.
Yeah, it never happens. And so, you know, by actually following sort of more to your advice, which is what I was going to ask you, but you've already said it so brilliantly, of changing even just one thing a month, not even one thing a day. Like, you know, there's that minimalist method of getting rid of one item every day, but even, you know, maybe just making that, and it's perfect for once a month as well, because generally, you know, you have one period a month. And so for menstrual products to go, this time I'm going to give this a go and just see what happens. And did you have any other advice for sort of making the switch, talking?
I think as well, to give yourself time. So generally with the cup, it seems to be, for most people, it takes 2 or 3 cycles to really figure out what works for you as well. To figure out, like, there's a ton of different, like, insertion folds, you know, and
there is, and sizes even of the actual cup.
Like, so I have one here. I'll use one as a demonstration. This is actually my demonstration one. It's a spare one that I won in a competition. So like, you know, it is so small, it is so tiny. There's a million brands. Some of them have longer stems, some of them have different shapes or slightly smaller in the center. But it's just about learning the different ways you can do them. So learning, like, some people do a push down here and that's their insertion to push there. Some people, that's called the 7-fold, or some people literally just push it in half and then squish it in, and then squish it in half again.
That's me.
And the C-fold. And those two are the ones that it's pretty much a 50-50 split on how people use them. But it's like learning those techniques and then going, I think I can still feel it. And, you know, working out your body, which, I mean, people say that using the cup, they learn about where their cervix lies. You know, do they have a lower cervix? Because there are brands which, you know, you might never have even known that. And, you know, there are brands which make ones specifically for people who have a lower cervix or a tilted tilted cervix, all these different things, and they move through our cycles too, which is always interesting to understand and know. And I think people are getting more and more interested into those sorts of things, and I know you and I are fascinated by that sort of part of our anatomy and
fascinated
cycle.
Absolutely.
Like knowing how it feels, like people trim the stem sometimes, but again, I always say to people, give it a couple of cycles before you do trim it, because you may find, because I was like, oh, I need to trim the stem. I can always feel it there and I hate it. But now I haven't trimmed mine and I am actually completely content. It was just that I didn't quite do it right, or it wasn't quite high enough, or it wasn't quite straight enough, or it wasn't, the seal wasn't created, it's.
Oh, and by the way, guys, there is like zero, Katie, you can back me up on this, right? You can't lose it. I've heard that said as well. People going, when it gets lost, no,
you can't lose it. There's nowhere for it to go. That's the thing, is it can't leave your cervix. That's it's almost a barrier. And I mean, I'm sure people have had the thing of panicking of losing a tampon, and again, it can't go anywhere.
No,
and this is even
it's in there somewhere.
And this is even less likely to, because it's actually, it's soft silicone, but it's very difficult to lose in any stretch of the word.
You aren't going to lose it. And how about sort of just being more open? There is still a lot of stigma, even though we're really getting there in terms of opening people's minds about sort of menstrual awareness, I suppose you could call it, or whatever, just really helping women step into their power. But would you also advise people to really reach out to people they see on Instagram or whatever, and just say, hey, I want to make some changes, I don't know what to do, could I have some advice?
Definitely. I think Instagram is a huge place with sustainability as well, like the awareness and knowledge and information. Like I think just typing into your search bar, like plastic free periods, there's an Instagram site called Put a Cup in It, and it's just literally those words, put a cup in it, no gaps, no spaces. And they are gurus. They're not associated with any one brand, but they are gurus on how they work, how you clean them, how you insert them, problems you might find, how to fix that. Do you have a specific, requirement? Are there a smaller size if you are a child? Because typically there's the standard 2 sizes. One is for if you're under 30 and haven't had a child. The other one is for if you're over 30, but you you have had a child.
Oh yeah, because it changes, of course.
Yeah, and then you sort of think, I'm like, where am I going to fit in this bracket? In a few years' time, I might be in both brackets. I have no idea which one I'll be part of. And
so it's exciting.
Knowing your body and knowing whether you're which one you're going to work for, and I think that's something that will help. Say it's just literally @ put a cup in it, and I think that's an incredible resource. They talk so frankly. They're massively against all like the blue liquid that you see poured onto sanitary towels on advertisements or commercials on the television, rather than actually being blood, because again, it's like, oh, that would be gross to have that on the telly, wouldn't it? When it's literally advertising a tampon, they're really great.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great shout actually, because there are some brilliant gurus out there all about that mental health. Maisie Hill is definitely another one. Dr. Sarah Hill is another one. She talks a lot about the contraceptive pill. Of course, the sustainable period pants you were talking about are Wookerwear is a great brand. You can follow them.
They're a really good UK-based one, and they're currently their campaign, big one at the moment, is to axe the period pant tax. So anybody who sort of has any knowledge of this is that up until quite recently, the UK had pink tax on sanitary products. And again, I think most people know it as pink tax. Just basically it was classed as luxury items, and they had an extra tax level, so they were more expensive, these products. But fairly recently, the period tax, or the pink tax on period products, there we go, was axed, and it was fantastic. But period pants have been left out of that, and the UK government, or the British government specifically, or the English government, one of those, is saying that they're not classed as an essential product, but actually through the Wookerwear, which is the period pants, or even just other companies that have period pants, they realize actually this has become something which is an essential item for some people. You know, for people who need to have that access, they're not a non-essential item. They are just as essential as tampons. And actually, now that more and more people are becoming aware of, I don't like the idea of tampons, I don't like the sticky, crinkly feeling of a throwaway pad that makes you feel like you're wearing a nappy.
Yeah.
You know, if they're wanting to move away from those, these other options need to be classed in the same. So they've got a massive campaign, which they're constantly bombarding at the UK government to say, axe the period pant tax. And so if you're interested in that, go sign their petition, go share their things on your Facebook or your Instagram and get their voices heard. They are massive, and they're changing the world. You know, these products are so accessible. People with disabilities are advocating for them on a huge scale because they're saying these have been life-changing. So,
you know, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And again, just having more conversations like these, right, where we are just openly, unapologetically chatting away about our periods, because why the heck shouldn't we?
Exactly.
Yeah. Katie, it's been everything I wanted to be and more. Thank you.
We could talk about this for hours.
Oh, we absolutely
we
could.
Probably will.
Probably will at another time. And yeah, thank you for just coming on and sharing, you know, your knowledge. And I know you're always learning, and I am too. So yeah, thank you so much for doing your bit.
Thanks. I'm glad I was able to put some thoughts out there.
Yeah.